Hi, I'm Rob.
I'm Tim.
I'm Mandy.
This is All School Gamekeepers, All School Dungeons and Dragons.
That's all editions 0 through 5, or O through 5, I'm sorry. Today we're going to talk about outside influences and things that people use to make their game better from, say, video games, books, any other source of media that has an idea that can make your game better. So we're going to talk about that. Um, so what do you guys use for outside influence, inspiration?
Well, I think everybody here probably uses everything, right? Like when you watch a movie or whatever, and you know, or play video game, you always get inspired by things that you like. But tabletop games are one thing that I have always enjoyed, and because of that, I found innovative ways to incorporate those into my D&D games.
Okay.
That's including board games and um, even like fair game. I've used festival games and stuff like that
Okay.
before. Carnival games, whatever.
Okay.
And I see you guys got lots of video games, so you have notes. I have notes. Mine are
I
mine are very
have
busy.
no notes.
But I like what you're talking about movies, because I might get some inspiration about some cool effects in some movies, and I might give my characters a ability, and then I'll describe it maybe using somewhat what I've seen off of movies. This is what's happening. This is the ability you're using. So.
Sure. Do you do like I know some GMs that do use like cinematics or whatever that like they'll be like they'll describe what's happening and everything, and some people don't like that, but I mean I'm real go with the flow. Like GM style, I think.
I've used music, but never cinematics.
Oh yeah, music is great.
And
definitely at the top of the list, right?
a soundbite. I'll use a soundbite occasionally,
Oh yes, yeah.
but I've never used cinematics yet. It's just been kind of hard because I have the other table that has the TV in it, and it's usually got a battle map on it. And for me to switch it off and do it, and like, okay, which map was that, and trying to find it because I got thousands of maps, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to use sound bites. Those are easier to find. So, but no, I've never used.
Do you have a certain app that you use for sound bites?
I just use. I find them on the internet. I just Google them, and then I just I put a link to them, and then I just go back to them. That way, I know.
So back in the day, I used to make like mixtapes or mix CDs, like with for music wise.
And we used to
do
make mix 8-tracks.
Shut up. Anyway,
My first. This is not D&D related, but my first 8-track was Kiss Destroyer on a blank 8-track
Yeah.
recorded.
No, I mean I had 8-tracks too, but I don't think I had any recorded 8-tracks. But
I never knew it existed. It was recorded.
The neighbor kid had it.
my
A
my
recorder.
mom's like Pinto had an 8-track player in it. It was like extra bougie at the time.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I had a car like that, but I
That was
never
real
got
cool.
fixed where I could drive it. So never.
But I had
well, I was new
8-track.
then.
I had a player. We still got a player in the other room somewhere. But the neighbor kid had Kiss Destroyer on an 8-track, and he made me a copy onto a
Nice.
blank 8-track, and I was like, yes.
I honestly did not even know you could do that.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
It would suck
We
till you'd be
learned-
playing it, and then it go.
We learn something new every day
Yeah.
that is not D&D related.
But
Music. Use music.
yeah, but I've used a lot of sound bites that I find on the internet, and some music that I can't remember where I got it, but it's just dungeon eerie music, and stuff,
Sure.
which is pretty cool.
There's actual like apps and stuff that you can get that are like pretty inexpensive. I think
Okay.
that will do that too. And I know that one of my friends had one where you could actually like load buttons like on your phone or I suppose your laptop or tablet or whatever. And I need to look that up because you could load buttons with certain sounds.
You just hit
and
that
then
button?
Hit that button. Like, how excellent is that for like if you had maybe different noises that you wanted to where like say they're out in a jungle and they can hear dinosaurs or something out in the off in the
Right.
distance, and like you have the stomping noise or like a roar or whatever, and you just every once in a while pushing that button.
The trilling that a
Good
predator
stuff.
makes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that would be like you're in the jungle, a cholt,
Oh,
you
yeah.
hear this, you're like, oh
Nope.
shit. Yeah. Hey man. So yeah, I used to use a lot of music, but
Good
now
stuff.
I'm trying to move around a lot of stuff. But when I was younger, a lot of my inspiration came from the Rankin and Bass, Hobbit, and Return of the King cartoons.
Sure.
Because oh man, I got a book of the Hobbit, and I was like, oh my god, this thing is thick. I am never going to read this as a child, So I just watched the movies.
Yeah, because I remember that I think I had a VCR of The Hobbit, and then it had Lord of the Rings, and it was like it's all condensed in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Wow, we had we had like I didn't read The Hobbit, but my mom was married to a guy and he read The Hobbit with me and his son, and we acted out all of the parts in our backyard over a summer. So like The Hobbit was really like
It was your own production.
hardwired in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
It was me, my half brother, and various animals that got roped into these performances because we had bunnies and cats. So
That would be funny.
Now I use a lot of Warcraft, World of Warcraft lore. It's just, it's a good solid lore, and I use it a lot for names. I mean, I will just like go through when I'm playing World of Warcraft, and I'll see this NPC and that NPC, and I'll take his last name and his first name, and I got this NPC for the idea that I have, because I go to some of these name generator sites for fantasy, and I just don't like some of the stuff they come up with. I'm like, this one's cool. It's easy to remember. I like use Brom Eisenstrider from Goldshire. I mean, it's just,
I once did an entire campaign where all of the names and everything were ripped off of the Titanic, like not the movie, the actual Titanic.
Okay.
And like I never told anybody until like the end, and they wrecked, and then I was like, yeah, if you look up all those names, they're actually people that were on the Titanic.
Since you're touching on Warcraft, there's lots of free PDFs out there that's homebrew stuff, so you can find tons of that stuff out there. I mean,
For Warcraft?
yeah, for Warcraft, conversions. There's even the classic dungeons, Deadmine, Scarlet Monastery, Skullamass. There's just a whole ton of them that someone went and made. And it's
I
free.
have two or
really
three of
cool.
the books from the 3.5, the D20 system, that I have just for ideas, but don't use them that much.
I've never even played World of Warcraft. Did you guys know that?
It is addictive. I mean, when you're playing your character and you're in like the third expansion, Wrath of the Lich King, and you hit /played, and it tells you 450 some days played. That's, you play for 15 minutes a day, an hour tomorrow. That's an hour and 15. 24 hours make a day.
No.
So when you get to, I'm like, I played this for over a year, almost.
This is what I'm saying, because I played Final Fantasy 11, and like that would actually one of my friends ran a Final Fantasy based edge, and I have another friend that is running one based on Kingdom Hearts, and it's like really cool how they have how both of them implemented like the classes and stuff from Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing the MMO, it was like, and you're like going to this event online, and people are like just throw Cheetos at your kids and get online, and I'm like, this is not how this works. I actually have to like feed my children actual dinner. But,
Yeah, I mean, it even has someone did their own player's handbook with all the races, classes, subclasses, and spells. It's
Warcraft.
for Warcraft, for D&D.
But there's stuff out there. You're right. There's stuff out there for
EverQuest.
Final Fantasy, EverQuest, probably any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You can probably find.
I've seen the
resources
EverQuest
online.
books. I haven't got on because I never played EverQuest.
Also,
Yeah, that's
who
good.
knows if it's balanced? I mean, I don't. You'd have to play test it to know. But
And I didn't
Right.
even think of researching that or Guild Wars. Now that you're bringing it up, I was trying to go through all the big fantasy games that are out there.
But I use a lot of Warcraft ideas for like Quest. I mean, like,
Yes, and you based a town off of Westfall, didn't you?
no, I based it off Goldshire.
Goldshire, but okay.
Just for ideas of, okay, this little bitty town is like the hub of your lower levels, and like you go there and you're going to have a guy that's going to be a blacksmith, you're going to have an innkeeper, you're going to have like the marshal or the sheriff, in this area. It gives you a good idea how to build a town if you don't have one. And as you go to other little towns, you're like, oh, well, this guy's got a fishing trainer. So because they rely on fishing, so if there's a stream or a lake nearby, you're going to have a guy that makes his living by catching fish and feeding people. You're going to have a stables along with the inn, and there's going to be a furrier there. So it's kind of like if you don't know how to build a town, and I see a lot of this in the Facebook groups. People, how do I build a town? What do I do? World of Warcraft, it's got a town that's pre-made, and another town that's pre-made, and another one, and you just take a little bit from each one, and things like, what would I want in my town?
Yeah, you're paying attention to these names, these shopkeepers and all that stuff. I have no idea the name, so yeah.
Well, Skyrim is the same way. I mean, you could theoretically just take some notes from any of the towns in
Right.
Skyrim, I think, and just put that in there. And
Yeah, we're playtesting a paladin based off of World
Yes.
of Warcraft, Retribution Paladin that me and Tim are working on. I'm let Tim
In the
play it in my Wednesday.
a Ret Paladin in World of Warcraft, he can consecrate the ground around him. So any enemy or anybody unfriendly to him steps in this 15 by 15, 15-inch radius or 15-foot radius. Anybody that steps into that will take damage over like 6-7 rounds in the game. Well, we're only going to use it for 3 rounds, and it's like what? I think we're going die 6, maybe die 8 damage.
I think we did, was it 3 dice 8 each round and 4 dice 8 if you're undead.
Right, undead suffer more, and then but it only lasts for so many rounds. It's like you can only do it once per long rest.
Yeah, it's almost like Channel Divinity.
It just is something that it's a last ditch thing. And I mean, if you're in a group of guys, I'm fighting, I'm the paladin, you're the caster, and you're the bowman or the rogue, and you're getting beat up really hard. I'm gonna throw this down, and it's gonna hurt them instead of just my one attack. Mm-hmm. My one action allows me to cast this, and that's once per long rest. And then I can smites. Paladins have the smite.
Your exorcism
If I
smite,
hit,
yeah.
we call it exorcism instead of using a smite. With my melee weapon, I can throw it out to 30 feet, but I have
40
to
feet, yeah, something like that.
have my weapon in my hand and point it at the target.
Yeah, make a throwing motion with your
And
weapon.
I can throw it with a charisma check for casting
Well, I
spells.
came up with your spell attack, your proficiency, and it might have been something else. But I used 3 of them, based on what do
and
you get
to
plus
hit.
to hit. So
It's not an automatic hit, so I've got to roll to hit. It doesn't. I mean, so it's like if that guy doesn't want to come close to me because he knows that I'm going to, beat him down pretty hard. He's standing in range. I can throw this at him, so I now have a ranged attack, and I could use that as many times as I have spell slots. For
yeah, just like
so you guys are making like an entire oath based off of a World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, and you could go on these big scale because I mean some of these people have done entire classes based like some people online have done entire classes based on different like I was saying my one friend did like Blue Mage and stuff where you can actually take from Final Fantasy
Yeah.
you
Okay.
learn monster abilities and those are like spells to you and you have to go out in the world and have it used on you to be able to use it so it's dangerous, right? But that's really cool and like summoner, I mean that could be a really cool job, or you could just go smaller scale and like in Final Fantasy 11, since we're talking MMOs, there each of the jobs had like a 2-hour ability. So like Black Mage had Manathon, which basically they could cast anything they could cast in like a 30-second period of time, but like with no mana cost, you know. But you can only do it once every 2 hours, which is why it was called 2 hours.
We played some of the real early editions of Final Fantasy back in Nintendo, Super Nintendo days back
Like
then.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
I remember Red, Black, and White Wizards.
I'm talking about the MMO, the
Oh, yeah,
Final
this-
Fantasy,
I've never-
yeah.
This is I'm talking about way
Not
before
the
that.
new, not the newer one. I have not played that one, but then there was like, I know there was the White Mage's ability was like benediction, and you could heal everybody up to full in your party, but then everything wanted to kill you.
Oh,
So I mean, there was
aggro.
always so yeah. I think it like, I mean, those things would be kind of fun to add, because like, yes, okay, so a white or a cleric or whatever could maybe use this ability once per long rest, but you might get murdified right afterward.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of cool.
That was my whole idea, though, is like I was, as a Retribution Paladin, Oath of Retribution, or what I call Oath of Consecration, that I would, I was going to grab aggro. I was wanting, it's, you know, it allows me to protect my party without having to, my character, wield a shield.
Yeah.
I like using, as a Paladin, I like using a big two-handed maul and just smashing shit. I don't like swords as for my Paladin. I just like using mauls and just messing stuff up.
Yeah, I know you really like the feel of the World of Warcraft Paladins, so that's why we, you came up with the idea of instituting it into D&D as a play thing. So I'm cool with it. I like some of that stuff too. So we're throwing a little bit of drama stuff into it.
Well, I mean, that's the good thing about running with friends too. Is like, I think you can test out those things and see, because if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. But it's not gonna ruin everything when you're running with people that you don't know so well. Sometimes then people get, well, but this character does all this stuff that's really cool.
And I really haven't used a lot of the abilities, because all I've noticed at the party, we've got a rogue, and he has been, in this group, has been very reluctant to do rogue things. Like, dude, we're in a dungeon. You need to be searching for traps. And he's messing around doing stupid stuff. And the group's run across some traps. And
kill him with some traps.
And I've got taken a lot of damage. And I'm like, okay, I need to save these abilities for when I really need them. Because I use my lay on hands to heal other party members because they've been hurt because the rogue's not doing his job. And I'm kind of at the point where I want to take this rogue and whack him upside the head with a hammer, but
I hope he's not watching.
But in defense, once or twice, I think probably didn't want to wait for I'm just going to open the door and see what happens. I'm taking damage, so I took some damage, own damage. Or
I think because we have been playing for so long, we've all seen those characters that do the. Once had a wizard that was like had the drop on the big bad and was like, I'm gonna stab him with my dagger, and the entire group was like, you're gonna what now? Like, okay, you're not gonna hit anything. And it was second edition, so you know they're not gonna hit.
Oh no, wizard's not gonna hit. Be a 20th level, and you're still gonna miss a goblin with a dagger. Better be a +5 dagger. The goblin better be wearing nothing.
It's hilarious. It was so good.
But Tim playing this new paladin with this, concentration, whatever, and so I got other perks I give them other guys' parties, so they have certain abilities. Some similar, what Tim can do once a day, they got stuff they can do once a day to do damage. So try to keep all these guys on even par, so they're not, one guy's not getting, hey, that guy's getting some special stuff that I'm not getting. So,
I mean, and I know that Rob in one of my campaigns wanted to play a character like Geralt from The Witcher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how do you want to play it? I have no Witcher lore, nothing, other than I watched the Netflix.
I watched the Netflix
and that was
thing.
way after,
I'm like, this guy just walks around with a sword, and
special abilities. Well, and then back then they didn't really have as much speaking of Witcher, they didn't have as much homebrew out there now that people are creating Witcher homebrew. There's lots of homebrew Witchers out there, and then people ask online.
But there's actually a Witcher RPG, so you didn't have to homebrew it. It's actually out there in the wild.
I don't know how long that's been out, but I haven't really.
This was way before COVID
Yeah.
when we were.
Yeah, this was a couple. This
Yeah.
was maybe 2-3 years ago we started playing. Started this, and I played a Witcher style character, and pretty much everybody says Eldritch Knight's from the fighters the way to go if you want to get the closest thing to being a Witcher, and now I see there's quite a bit of homebrew out there that people have created their own Witchers based on the abilities where it's not official class.
When I was first learning 5e, I kind of noticed that the paths and stuff that you take at level 3, there's a formula there that you could easily just start hacking. And I've always meant to kind of go through each of the classes and at least do one, even as just an exercise, a mental exercise if nothing else. But I just never have gotten around to it, so I suck. I don't know. I really lack the follow through.
So speaking of Witcher, I like to use a lot of Witcher stuff in my
Right.
games, and right now they discovered not too long ago the big bad guy is going to be the Wild Hunt from the Witcher's game, and there's actually they haven't got their own monster manual called the Book of Beautiful Horrors with all these Witcher monsters in there.
Now that book, I don't know anything about it. Is it 5e compatible?
Yeah, it's all 5e compatible. It's all.
Why don't we own it yet?
Well, I made copies.
Hey, I was going
I
to
can
tell
make
you,
copies.
because you mentioned this, we are really off the rails, guys. Okay, so, but you were saying that people don't know how to make settlements and stuff like that. There is a book by Nord Games that is called Fantastic Settlement, or Spectacular Settlements, or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, if you're watching this, look it up. It's really cool. Every kind of settlement, from outposts, little tiny things,
Right.
to huge cities. There
Okay.
is a formula in there. You roll dice, and it will and
If you want it to all be random, though.
yeah, you
Okay.
you don't have to do it random though. You can look and pick through the list.
Right.
But it even tells you how your choice in this column back here affects your crime rate here, and affects it's a huge book. It's this thick, and there is every kind of settlement imaginable. And
Okay.
you go through from the first step to the last step, and you can make all kinds of random settlements, or you can make them all, how you want.
Speaking of crime rate, the other thing I ever done is I have the Code Legal from Waterdeep that I use everywhere.
Sure.
And I'm just remember the Code Legal, players. You break it, there's consequences.
Oh yeah, you made a special thing up for rules in town. I remember that. And,
the rogue will always break it.
Yeah. So, basically what
Nord Games, though, you say, right?
Yeah, Nord.
Okay.
A few years ago when we were playing second edition, this was we were just barely starting to get into fifth edition. I was running the campaign, and I actually used Geralt in my campaign.
Okay.
And then my Witcher type character I use in Tim's, I actually he's involved in my game now. Coming in and doing stuff. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with Witcher type stuff.
I usually don't pull complete characters from usually it's more of an element for me. I have always wanted to pull materia from Final Fantasy VII and to a low magic world, and maybe all the magic was taken out of this world, and the only magic that's left is found in these items that you can add to your weapons and stuff. I always thought that would be kind of cool.
It's kind of like the Time of Troubles in the Forgotten Realms, where and then the what was it? The other one, the Spell Plague.
Yeah.
One clerical magic didn't work. The other one, arcane magic
That's
didn't
right.
work.
Yeah.
But only the items would still work. I mean, if you had a scroll of heal wounds or cure light wounds, that would still work. But
I think that's how Canterbury died the first time she died was with Spell Plague. And Regis followed right after that or something.
Right.
Yeah, Spell Plague.
But and I use a lot of Salvatore. I don't use his heroes so much, but I will use Rob uses Jar Axle a lot. which is kind of cool because
Breaking the Earth. I use them on there.
he's
so.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't. I use like ideas that he has. Like he uses an idea like the Crystal Shard. It's like right now the Shardal Dragon from Rime of the Frost Maiden is from the first Crystal Shard from Icewind Dale. But when he goes down Jaraxel and Driscoll to Calimport and Artemis, they put up a whole line of these towers, of these crystal shards, and those broke. What about all those pieces that are in the desert when they destroyed them? But I will use like, okay, you go to Calimport, and if there was a Pasha Pook down there, then Regis took over. Then I don't know who the Pasha is now, but you'll run across characters that may have been introduced in those books or NPCs. I will use those because it's always cool when you meet somebody you read about.
Sure.
And you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like even from mythology or whatever, or even if you think you did.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes
that guy looks a lot like Thor's avatar.
Yeah.
And you're like,
this is
wow.
really what are you doing here? Like, who is this mysterious stranger?
I use the current timeline with the Salvatore books in my game. Be dealing with Luskin and what's going on with Luskin and stuff. So that gets put into my games. And
I'm all over on that. I don't know about you when it comes to timeline, but my timeline is whatever I kind of feel like. Like in the campaign that we were last running before COVID, I was using Drelsna from Lost Caverns of Socanth.
I didn't know anything about her until you.
But she's the vampiric daughter of Igwilvi, or Tasha, whatever you want to call her. And then them two are together. Igwilvi and Drelsna are together, and they're actually working with the players because, not Drelsna, but she's got a brother. Yes.
Are you afraid that your players' meta knowledge of these characters or whatever will affect?
Because you have their names. I have changed a lot of stuff from the old Greyhawk, but you know that this is the mother, Igwilvi, this is the daughter, Drelsna. They've got a brother, or she's got a brother, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, Ooze. But we're not using Ooze. We've got someone else. I'm using someone else as the evil brother, and they're trying to help. The party is helping them stop the evil brother.
So it's an alternate universe.
In a way, but yes, I mean, it's set in the realms, and you meet people like they've met, the guy that's the bartender in Waterdeep. They've met Durnan at the Yawning Portal.
I don't really use any kind of published material usually at all, other than just to rip stuff from it. But my current, I say current, but I haven't run in over a year, so
Okay.
COVID is based off of Oz, the current land that we're
Being like Wizard of the Oz?
Wizard of Oz, yeah. And loosely there is there are some similarities, and basically walking, talking animals are totally normal. That is a normal thing that happens.
Okay.
You could be any race that's not even we'll just reskin it,
Right.
But yeah, they're. I don't think my players would ever watch this, so.
Never know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who are your players? We'll give them a shout out.
I don't know. It could happen. I really doubt it, but yeah. So one of the one of the major NPCs is a beholder who desperately wants to be human, and she's a very powerful wizard in this world, and she wants to be human, and so she dresses in this weird costume that is not convincing in any way, and always addresses them from behind the curtain. So
Beholder
is
the wizard from Oz.
You kind of see this stuff, except for she's not a fraud. She really is a very powerful wizard. But there's a lot of things there, because I really wanted the Wheelers and
Okay.
and one of the big bads is Mombi. So
Okay.
yeah, I really love the Oz series. So
I've never watched the series. I've only seen the movie. Like
no, I
how
don't.
many
I
times.
no, not any kind of TV series or anything
Oh.
like that. They tried to do one and it was horrible. Don't watch that.
Okay.
It's awful. It's called something. I don't know. It's awful anyway, and it's not for children. Oh my God, don't watch it.
I'm 51, 52. I think
I
I'm
know,
safe.
but they should not do that to my Oz.
Oh.
I'm sorry. It was really not. It was gross. It was
Okay.
gross.
Another thing, I see a lot of time popping up. They tell you, especially when I do YouTube or look at D&D stuff, and they'll pop up something how to make these characters from others. How do you make Thor in D&D? How do you make
No.
this person? How do you make this person? And I look at that.
You talking about the Marvel?
Marvels
versions?
and anything.
Okay.
It might be some other. It might be something from anime or something, whatever. And I bring it up, or somebody that okay, I know who that is, but why in the world would you want to make a D&D character based on that? But
I want One Punch Man. What? Why?
Because I can take everybody down with one punch.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, I don't take characters directly from anything because, like, I don't know. Like I said, I might take a personality trait or a voice. I'll practice voices. If somebody has an interesting voice, I will listen to it and practice it to try to do this really cool voice. But yeah, I don't usually take entire characters at all. Just I don't know.
So you have a bard that sounds like Jerry Seinfeld.
I hate Seinfeld.
Okay.
I loved watching Seinfeld in the 90s. I loved Kramer.
Okay.
I wasn't a big Jerry Seinfeld fan, but Kramer, some of the stuff that he would be a good jester.
Yeah.
Like a court jester.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, if anybody makes me think of something when I hear them, I mean, this is greatest, man. There's sometimes you'll just see this bit part in a movie, and this person will have this like stupid voice, and I'm like, oh my God, I need
Yes.
this in my life, like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, video. When it comes to TVs and movies, I get a lot of things, a lot of one-liners from things that I would use. I used in the last campaign, Quint from Jaws. He was playing this old seaman, sailor. I'm sorry. He was playing this old sailor that was on a boat that Drelsna came to.
He's playing an seaman.
Yeah, she came on a boat. She arrived on a boat, and
We're in this rabbit hole now.
and this old sailor walks up to the party, and he does Quint's line about when the shark attacks, the eyes roll back, black like a doll's eyes, and nobody seemed to recognize that I was using the line from Jaws.
I've probably seen it once, way back in the day. So
but and
maybe not even
lifeless,
I don't know.
black, lifeless eyes like a doll's eyes, and he was describing her because he had witnessed her kill a few men on the ship because they tried to steal from her.
Sure.
And so it was just one of them things, and I had some artwork for the character. Not looking like Quint, but he was old and scraggly shaving.
I've done plenty of one shots that were like full on, pulled from something else. Like I don't know, Scooby Doo. We did a Scooby Doo Savage Worlds.
I've never done a
D&D
Scooby Doo
though,
thing
but,
as a mystery.
Yeah, it was a mystery, and there was a witch in the swamp or something. I can't remember now, but I actually printed up Scooby snacks too for because you get Bennies and Savage Worlds, but you could easily do it for D&D instead. And then and I did Steven Universe Adventure Time crossover, which was Adventure Time is D&D. LSD&D is what I used to call it all the time because if you watch it, you're like, all right, okay. It's definitely lends itself to Dungeons and Dragons very much so, but and in that I did a crossover for with Steven Universe, and it was basically like, I don't know if you watched Steven Universe at all, but
No.
but the Space Gems had started kindergarten, which is like how the rock people are born or whatever, and on U, which is the land of
Okay.
Adventure Time, and it was corrupted, so they didn't wind up using it because of Princess Bubblegum's stuff. So because I knew a lot about that kind of
You knew a lot of
lore,
lore.
I could put that. But basically, they were rock candy instead of rocks, space rocks. See where anyway, it was fun.
Oh,
We're getting back to, we touched on Witcher, and then Warcraft, but now the Diablo, which is made by Blizzard, the people who made it into Warcraft. I'd come across a second edition monster conversion for a bunch of their monsters from Diablo.
Really?
And they actually have, I think Matt Mercer and Critical, I think they did, I keep popping up on, you see, they did a one-shot, I guess, Diablo module or something.
Really?
And they've had actual licensed Diablo module. I don't know how many they had, if they more than one, but, back for second edition, it might have been into third edition too, I don't know, but
I don't know.
So Diablo had some official stuff that was D&D approved and stuff.
So much second edition stuff that was unreal.
Yeah, I think it seems like all stuff pops up. I see like second edition. Man, I don't remember this book, but they had so many modules and stuff for second edition I probably didn't even know about.
Exactly. I mean, I own a lot of second edition stuff, but man, there's stuff that I still see that
Yeah.
just existed. That I was like, where the heck was this? Like,
Yeah.
The little players, what do you call them? Scat books? Is that what you call them? Little players'
Splat
handbook?
books.
Yeah, the little splat. There's a ton of those. You probably,
oh yeah.
probably that much. You put them at the end of all these different,
Yeah,
thieves and
yeah.
Sionis and all that stuff. There's so much
I
stuff.
I think I have all of those.
Charlemagne's Paladins.
Yeah.
The
Viking
Northmen.
stuff and stuff
Right.
based off arms and arms. Yeah, there's so many go on. Another one, Monster Hunter. It's kind of a popular video game too.
Plus, it's
Monster
a
Hunter, I don't know
popular thing to do in D&D, right?
Right,
so
but-
like you
so
can
the
have
whole-
your monster of the week, and
And now they had their own movie. I didn't see the movie, Monster
I haven't
Hunter.
either.
It just didn't look that appealing to me to try watching it. But I mean, they had their own monster manual, and I looked at it, and I wasn't big into what I found. It's just all these monsters are like dinosaur types, whatever. They're all same type. Seem like it's all same type of monsters, and not a whole lot of variety, but there's a ton of them. So that
How
was
many
something-
melee monsters do you really need?
Yeah, guys,
I mean, I think it's it comes down to more about abilities. So
Exactly.
if you can come up with something interesting that it does, then that changes the dynamic. If not, then it's probably not worth ripping off.
Yeah, I mean, I went through it, looked at it, and I said, man, I just don't want to see anything in here that I want to, use in my games. That really just
I watched
comes
a
out.
video the other day from the Gallant Goblin about the new minis and the Kobold Warband, and he was talking about other kobolds, and he talked about kobolds with rot grub pots. And I'm like, well, I've used my kobolds not with pots, but they're in a pot, but he doesn't throw the pot. He's got like a special glove that he wears to reach into the pot and to pull one out and stick it into a blowgun.
Oh.
And then shoot the rot grub at a player character.
If he rolls a 1, he sucks it down his windpipe.
Exactly.
I remember you talking about this. Yeah.
But if
So nasty.
they're going to aim at soft characters that they know that this grub is going to affect. It's like your wizard.
That's
he gets
really
hit by a
gross.
rot grub. He's not casting spells that round. Well, hopefully he's not going to cast spells and.
Oh my goodness.
But those ideas, how could you make a kobold more deadly? Throw a rot grub pot at him's cool, but a blowgun is a little bit different.
Plus the visual is enough to go.
Swallow it, yeah.
What you need for this is one of those PVC pipe marshmallow blowguns, so that you can marshmallow it.
Well, we got paintball guns. We could probably do the little mini ones. And,
I would. I got.
Yeah, but that way, like you can take the
We'd have
marshmallows or kind
blowguns at work. We have piping in the RV industry for flexible tube. You get a piece about that big and a bell cap that electricians carry. You just stick that in there. It's perfect. and
Yeah.
you'd shoot it, and it would hurt somebody. But then people would put it up to compressed air and shoot that thing across the shop. Yeah, very dangerous. But when you get bored, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah. Another one, Predators and Aliens. I like the
Man,
idea of
that's
using some. Actually, my second edition game that went years ago that we didn't go too far in, but I had a valley set up that was going to be dealing with predators and aliens. And there's actually stat blocks I found. The aliens are actually called xenomorphs. And
In the movies, in the books. But what do we call them in D&D? I mean,
they actually call it xenomorphs or whatever. Yeah.
because they would be, there's so many like creatures now that are like the aliens.
Yeah, and I came across another one, and I think it came up Pinterest, and this might have been when I just got bored at work doing Googling or whatever, and it just came up Pinterest. And there was a monster that was pretty similar to an alien, something called something else.
I mean, you could totally reskin something and then add the acid blood and
Right, and
or
there's
acid
that.
drool. And,
Yeah, there's actually something dealing with that with whoever made the alien
You know,
stat block.
slashing that thing with your sword.
Yeah,
and your sword's going to have
you're gonna
acid
take-
on.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
if you slash it and it pierce or whatever, it's gonna.
Any
it's gonna squirt
non-magical
out on
weapon
you.
is going to be useless. Magical weapons are going to take some damage, or they're going to have to make the weapon itself is going to have to make a
Yeah.
savings type throw.
Yeah, I don't remember reading all about it, but back in the movies, so it would.
or maybe
Steel.
maybe the player characters are hunting down these aliens because they're super dangerous, but little do they know they're like in competition with this predator that is also trying to hunt them down
They do it for
Right.
sport and
for,
games.
Yeah.
And training.
sport. Yeah.
If you know the movies, that's for training, and just
Right.
because that's what they're about is the hunt. If you're armed or whatever, you're part of the hunt. But if you're not armed, they're not going to mess with you. 'Cause they'll consider you sport.
Right.
I would totally play in a Predators or Alien game. That's
Another
you
one,
wanna
Dark
narrow them
Souls.
down.
I don't know anything about Dark
I know
Souls.
I think there's 3 Dark Souls out there. I never played any of them, but
So Dark Souls is cool. I
I
mean,
know nothing.
it's like a lot of death, but I mean, the monsters are really cool looking. So and
More
and I will
Eldritch
say
type
this,
looking
like,
then?
not even they are kind of got their own thing, man. There's a board game as well. Dark Souls, the board game. It's about $100, I want to say. But the miniatures for it are like there's these huge boss monsters in it. You ever want something hellish looking for your D&D game or whatever? I mean, like those are some top tier.
that's it. Tim's going to go out and buy it now.
Yeah.
Stop it, damn
Those
it.
are-
Just for those figures.
Those
I
are
will look
some-
'em up.
Those are some really cool figures, and it's like the board game like works kind of like the video game does, where the bosses are all going to have like this pattern, right? And you just got to figure out the pattern, and then you can beat the boss. It's the same as Zelda, really. It's just like a lot darker skin, right? But like they're gonna do certain things in certain order, and if you figure that out, you can beat them. But the board game is a lot the same way, and they work on these. They move on these nodes, and there's like that's how the bosses move and everything.
So is there
But-
any content for anybody doing Dark Souls
I mean,
stuff for D&D?
honestly, like I'm sure they have. I
I don't know.
Yeah, I came across monsters. They have somebody did monsters,
Okay.
spells from the game, and some magic items. There's not a whole lot of magic items I came across, but I think I have the magic items stuff printed out that I found
But I
online.
mean, even if you like used a stat block that existed and used that
Just reskinned
miniature,
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
they wouldn't necessarily like your players aren't going to know what they're
That this
that they're
was
facing, whatever
originally
you
this
know.
monster.
Yeah. If you just reskin it, so. But there's some really cool weapons and
Yeah.
armor and stuff
yeah,
in the game, and some really cool lore too. I mean, I haven't like played a lot of Dark Souls or whatever, but my son was really into it, so.
Okay.
yeah. A lot of these games they have their own version of a wraith. That's what I come across. They got their version of wraith. They got their dark wraith. They got this. So a lot of them have the. Okay, we already got wraiths in D&D. Now I'm gonna use this other wraith, and this is a different type of wraith. But
You just give it
yeah,
basic rate stat block, then you add some special abilities
uh,
to make it, and who says a wraith has to be a human?
Right.
In the book, you get the monster manual. You see, like, it looks like a human fighter with the sword is the wraith. I think that was the wraith. But who said it had to be human? It could be any sentient race that is now a wraith, or a wit, or a vampire. Any sentient, like, what is it? The Alhoons? Are they the vampiric mind flayers?
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, they're now worse.
Yes.
As long as it can think, I mean, you can.
Well, at least back in the day, like, elves were immune to that kind of thing. But, like, they couldn't be undead. But now, like, banshees are technically, like, I think by 5e rules, like, I think it literally says it's an elven woman.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I honestly, like, I don't need all that fluff in the monster manual. Like, I'll make up my own story about how these monsters got here. Like,
Right.
to me, I don't want to ruin whatever I'm going with at the time, like whatever feeling I'm going with. Like, I don't want to ruin that with like whatever lore doesn't really fit the world or whatever. I just want to go with the vibe that I got going.
Right.
I
like to use for my world the realms, because, like, say if you're born in Waterdeep, right? You're going to know by the time you're 15, if you make it that far, you're going to know quite a bit about the city. And you're going to know that Baldur's Gate is to the south, Neverwinter's to the north along the coast. You're going to know that Evermeet's out there to the west, in the Moonshays. You're going to know a little bit if you spend time talking to other people in the city. You're going to know a little bit about the geography. You're going to hear about giants, and you're going to hear about sea creatures and dragons. You're going to know a little bit. So it's like, I just use the Forgotten Realms as like, okay, you know a little bit about it. So you're going to have some kind of intelligence about, or some kind of, wisdom, as you say, about creatures and places. It just makes it easier for, like, where do you want to go? Let's go up to Neverwinter. Fine. All right, we're going to Neverwinter. And as you go along the way, you're talking with people that you're traveling with. They're like, oh, where are you from? I'm from the spine of the world. Well, where the hell's that at? And the guy gives you a little rundown on it. Some stuff that I, as a DM, don't have to fill you in on.
Right.
It just makes it easier. When I hear people say they do a homebrew, it's like, do your own world. I'm like, man, I don't know nothing about your world. I should know something. And it makes it a little bit harder for me to get into it. It's not that you don't have a good story. It just makes it harder for me to like, what can I do? I mean, if you're going to railroad the campaign, fine. But if you're putting me in a sandbox, I gotta know something so what I can do.
I think, like, I don't know. I have a long-term homebrew world that I run in. It's not D&D though, so it's World of Darkness fantasy. But so it's a D10 system. But
Okay.
because that's the vibe I like for it, and it's a like low fantasy world. But I mean, it is. There's very rich lore, and I give whenever I've run in this world to people that haven't run in it before, because I've run in it for like 30 years or something. So like it's a lot of people have run in it at some point. I give them a little rundown, and I give them like a paper with a rundown on it, and I mean, I could tell you what the landmarks are in your area, right, and how we got here, and I mean, because it's got hundreds of years of history, because we've run D&D in it for so long that some of those heroes have died and they're legends, Right. So I don't know. I mean, like, I get it. If you have a homebrew world, I guess you definitely need to have some point of reference for your players if you want them to sandbox it. That's for sure.
Ethan likes doing home worlds, and he's working on another home world right now for a campaign down the road.
I love world building. It's like one of my favorite things. So
I've read most of those novels up there.
But see, I would be just as lost as you would be in my homebrew world if I were to play in your Forgotten Realms, because you know so much about Forgotten Realms that I would be like, okay, I know that one word out of that sentence, what that was.
But
I recognize that character name. That is the end.
but I have, like, I read a Pathfinder novel not too long ago, and because Pathfinder's 3.5, just a different world,
Sure.
and I'm reading it, and they're talking about these cities and this place they're going to go. Like, where the f- is that at? I had to get out a map online, find a map online of Galarian, and I was like, I think it's Galarian, and I had to find out, oh, that's there. Okay, they're going to go here. Okay, that's a long trek. That's so many miles. I'm like, I'm figuring out that's going to be this many days travel, and I'm figuring this stuff out, and I've just, geography has always been a thing for me, and knowing about places and knowing about ecology of creatures, and it's just like, it's just one of them things. It's like, I'm always trying to be a couple steps ahead of everybody in everything I do. I don't like being
He said
unawares.
he's competitive.
So yes, it's just
That's
me.
what that translated
Well,
to.
you talk about people living in water deep and 15 years old, and they hear about this and they hear about it, they know that everyone's there and there. I got this Titus coworker. I got a map in my office at work. He's the crane operator, and I had to give him geography lessons. He really didn't know where the Rockies was really.
Oh my God.
He didn't know the Appalachians.
No,
mountain.
yeah, that's.
So yeah, he's like, okay, you're
Yes, but
40 years old or something. You should know where some of these stuff. He thought Washington D.C. was actually in the state of Washington, and so I make fun of my other guys. I just had to give Jason another geography lesson today.
okay, but the thing is like, your people that your player characters are not. They don't have the internet, so they're not distracted. They are involved in the world around them. They're not reliant on, like I said when I first came in here, if I didn't have GPS, I wouldn't find your house. Well, I would because I know how to read a map, but the point is that we have become so reliant on those things
Right.
that
Yeah.
like I think we take into consideration, okay, so our player characters have been involved in this world, and probably at 15 they probably had to do a lot of stuff for their family and had to do some of that running, and they
Right.
know not to take that path at night because mom has said you don't take the path at night,
I mean, and they don't have the phones to look up,
Yeah.
and the internet, and
right.
so it's like you're going to go back to a more simpler time where you have a lot of time. It's like, hey, we're going to town, or we're going to go to the other side of town. It's going to take an hour to walk there or more, and it's like you've got a lot of thinking time as you're doing, and
Yeah.
or time that you can observe and learn things.
It's like, how did we do before GPS? Because you sit there.
I got out an old
You're-
frickin'
you're-
atlas.
An atlas,
But you get these towns like South Bend where you got streets like Hastings. There's 3 different Hastings in town. You give your
Yeah.
address on. Okay, so which Hastings are you going to go to? Or Grant? Go to Grant's. There's,
You got out and you drove them until you found it.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, also basic direction sense. Yeah, I don't know.
I went and picked up a collection last Saturday from a woman in Lansing, Michigan. I go, could you meet me partial way? And, because, it's like a 2-hour drive for me. A little over 2-hour drive. So anyway, I went and got it. But at first she's like, well, I can meet you in Flint. I told her I'm from Niles. I'm coming from Niles.
Flint.
And I'm like, Flint, wait a second. Flint's farther.
That's way out to the east.
That's to the east.
Yeah, northeast, maybe east, northeast.
So I pull up Lansing, Michigan, and like, okay, wait, Flint's over here.
Yeah.
I'm like,
North
wait,
of
I'm
Detroit.
down here.
Yeah,
I'm
wait.
coming from the southwest.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go that way? From Lansing? And I was like, look, I'm from the southwest of you. She goes, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And I'm like,
Oh boy.
I was just like, I just told you I'm from the southwest, and you're going to take us east. And I was just like, yeah. But I was
Well-
just like, I could see why she was getting out of D&D.
Okay. She's not smart enough to play D&D.
Oh my
No,
God.
don't want to be that mean, but yeah.
But
Cut that out.
All right, I'm gonna wrap
I'm
up.
not giving her a name.
I'm gonna wrap up what I've got on this. Talk about Dark Souls, monsters, and all the monsters. And the Witcher had the book of beautiful, horrors, and they had a whole bunch of different types of vampires and this type of creatures. But Destiny and Skyrim. I come up across some stuff, not a whole lot. Doom.
See, Skyrim, I think that actually has quite a lot.
It has a lot of lore
So
from what
not only
I know.
that, it has lore, but also
I mean-
just think about the main character, right? You
Yeah.
have these shouts that you can learn. You could base a huge campaign off of just the idea of going into these sacred places and learning different shouts, which are different abilities. And like it wouldn't have to be exclusively one person as the Dragonborn or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but what I'm touching on is stuff that's already people have already done 5e conversions.
see.
So, but I haven't played these games and about these shouts, and I don't,
Yeah.
maybe someday I will play them. I can learn about that stuff.
Skyrim's excellent. It's worth it.
There are some Doom monsters that people converted. There's some Legend of Zelda stuff. Some Final Fantasy stuff has been got D&D stuff out there that people converted. That's pretty limited from what I found. The Divinity stuff and Dragon Age also has some content.
Well, Dragon Age has its own like RPG entirely. I don't know if it's a D20 system or what, but
I don't know.
It looks pretty cool. It just
I don't know.
I have enough.
And that's the same with the next one I'm touching. Lord of the Rings has its own RPG system.
Yeah, well, it has a couple
Yeah,
of them
and it's
actually.
Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Middle Earth stuff that.
Adventures in Middle Earth, which was
Yep.
5e, and
Yeah,
then,
some people did that.
right, and then there was, and then it has its own like that's the One Ring or whatever.
And that's
I passed on a collection of that last weekend.
And there's still some some
Shouldn't
D&D
have, but I did.
homebrew people have done on that. And then last thing I'm gonna touch on is Game of Thrones. I think they do have an RPG system out there, but
That's really low magic, though.
yeah, and
I-
from what I've seen
I
for
like
5e,
the magic,
stuff at
but-
5e, it seems to be lacking in what I found for 5e conversions.
Yeah,
I'm-
there's a Game of Thrones, an RPG
Yeah,
that
I've
came
probably
out
heard of it,
years
yeah.
and years ago. I mean, way long ago now that I think about it.
I am so
The books
centered.
were like $80 or something.
Jeez, $80.
Yeah, for this the same. I mean, maybe they're not. Maybe this was just like at the time they were $80, but like I was like, no, I'll pass. Like $50 is too rich for my blood.
Did you ever
but-
get caught up with Game of Thrones, Tim? I know you're
No.
way behind.
I
Okay.
went and watched the highlights.
Okay.
I read the books. I have not seen the series.
Yeah, I look at the books and it's this thick. I was like, man.
I read all the books
I
and
don't have
did
the
not
time.
watch the series.
I don't have the time to read these big, thick books. Every year when Salvatore comes out, it takes me months.
I'm reading like a book a week now.
Well, the other cool thing about Game of Thrones is the heraldry stuff, because like if you're really interested in, I wouldn't say that's for everybody, but if you're really interested in like medieval politics and then heraldry stuff, man, Game of Thrones is a great inspiration, even if you don't want to take exactly from them and those families or whatever, because they'd all be dead by the end of the story anyway, right? So you
Yeah.
just make your own families, but
But they're
man, there's
touching
some
on
cool
stuff that-
inspiration there.
Yeah, by talking about the families and the heraldry of Game of Thrones, there is a lot to be learned there for how to use them as nobles. Like in
Exactly.
the Forgotten Realms, the Margaster, they are very popular in Waterdeep,
Yeah.
and you run across them in Dragon Heist. They're in the book, but you can how would you play this Margaster? How would you play this one? I'm gonna play him like Jaime Lannister, or I would play him like by Cersei, and so it's easy for a DM to play that just by I'm just gonna act like her. I'm gonna act like him. Oh man, this one would be this one would be Tyrion. This one would be Tywin.
Yeah, it's a very easy way to get some inspiration for some clever villainy too, because I think that George R. R. Martin, his characters, because he writes each chapter is by on a different person's perspective. I think that he really gets in the headspace of those characters, and so I think he does a really good job of imagining what they would actually do, and not just he wants this to happen, but I think he kind of lets the characters guide the story sometimes, which is why he takes so long to write his books.
He had wrote a comic series about werewolves. I can't remember what it was called.
I also am now forgetting that name.
I started reading it as a PDF on a comic reader, and I was kind of thinking this would be good for a family of werewolves that isn't really feral. I mean, when you think of Curse of Strahd and the werewolves in there, you kind of think of more feral. They're
Yeah.
But if you want to have a aristocratic family, werewolves who are, you know, like Strahd. I mean, I'm badass, and but we're badass, and we're a family, you know. And then you're talking, oh, Fast and Furious 9, where Dom's got family. You know, I mean, this I can't remember the name of that comic, and I was just, but it's by George R. R. Martin, and it's just like there's things to be learned in there about if you want to create a sinister family that, and you know, they don't have to be werewolves. I mean, they can be were-rats, they can be were-bears. I mean, it's just it's really cool building things and allowing you to and up your game, your D&D game, or your any game that you're playing. I mean, that's an RPG. Um, uh, I think that what do you call it when I use not mimicry or mocking, but
Plagiarism.
plagiarism is the best form of flattery. Yes, it is. I mean,
So when we had talked via text about like where I was going with this was which I didn't touch on.
Touch on it.
No. It'll take
No.
forever. But is I was going more for like implementing things like
Rule sets.
board games and stuff into your games, but also I have to say this after you saying that about the werewolves. So like in the 90s, of course, like Vampire the Masquerade was really hot. Well, I really loved Werewolf the Apocalypse a little bit more, just because I really loved the idea of werewolves just kind of being these nature beings that are actually here to protect the earth, and like they're failing, right? I mean, it's a sad story because they're losing, and I always loved I loved the World of Darkness stuff, which is why I still
I have some of
the,
it. I don't
you know,
have a lot.
This is why I still like the D10 system was really easy to use and everything like that. It's not great for combat. Like I think D&D does combat a little bit better, but on the other hand, like degrees of failure and success are kind of nice. And no hit points, so you have this different kind of.
That was always
It's
hard
a different
for me.
vibe. I actually think like not using hit points is kind of more realistic because you're like taking damage off of your rolls. But I mean, we don't really get into that. But
Like the Star Wars RPG had wounds. The first edition had wounds, and like 2 medium wounds would be a heavy wound,
and
or something like that.
Some of it is more complicated than others. I will say that World of Darkness was not, at least not the second edition, was not complicated at all. It was very simple. But I will that because that was like in the 90s, right? I was playing a lot then, and like I was running D&D, I was running Vampire, I was running Werewolf, I was playing a lot of games, and I will say that these vampires and werewolves that are not these like just hungry monsters all the time, that are thoughtful and sometimes good and sometimes super evil, and but always thoughtful, always, and they always have their own things going on too. You know, I think it really changed how I even wanted to run those creatures in my D&D game. Now I still ran Ravenloft, and there was still, you know, I definitely still love all of the just the gothic horror stuff that is more of the, you know, old school Dracula kind of.
Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that that overall it kind of just changed my storytelling a lot, I guess, is. You know.
I always, you know, when you read the 5 ebooks or the 2 ebooks, whatever, that the werewolves were chaotic evil.
Yeah.
I always took it as, okay, a pack. A pack is going to be more or less chaotic evil because they're going to feed off of each other. Actions will feed. I mean, you get a bunch of people together, you know, we're all hanging out, but if you get a bad seed in there, and if he or she is influential enough, the others will follow. You'll have your followers, and they're gonna. And if this one is evil, and these are kind of like neutral on the border, you know, not knowing where to go, and this one influences them enough, so the pack is going to be, to me, would always be the strongest leader's alignment or personality-wise. But you have the loner. That's where I see the werebears. because, hey, I'm just doing my stuff. I'm going to be very lawful about protecting my cubs, as a female werebear. And I don't know how the male bears in real life, how they are in the family knit system, other than impregnating the mother of the sow and taking off. I don't know, but werebears are lawful good. But
I got rid of alignment a long time ago. Like I haven't used alignment really in forever. Like, I mean, I can't even remember the last game where I actually used alignment because of the fact that, like, to me, if a creature is intelligent,
it has the opportunity
it can make its own decisions, and
Right.
and so every character is different to me, and like there's circumstance and culture and all that, which like I
Right.
know that's a big topic right now too, so we probably shouldn't. But
Well, I would look
but
at like
yeah,
packs of
it's-
goblins would be chaotic evil wherever they're
I mean,
default
sure,
alignment.
you have things that are going to like they're a product of their environment or whatever.
Yes.
They're like okay, they're going to do some evil stuff, and you have maybe you have like these goblins that are attacking this town and whatever. But like if you run into an individual goblin, or if you ran into some goblins while adventuring and they're not like in the dungeon or whatever, they're just like maybe they just camped overnight, I wouldn't necessarily go, oh well, those are evil,
Right.
So
The whole Gaiac's saying is nits make lice. It's like you can't throw them all into the same everybody in the same bucket, because you're going to have ones that are different. And I think that is where the DM should play that. Like every werewolf that we come across may not be super evil. Maybe he's already, okay, you're thinking, okay.
well, the thing that always got me was dragons, right? I mean, like, okay, this dragon has lived for hundreds of years. It's lawful evil. It's lawful to who? It's lawful to itself. Like, I don't know.
Well, what I say is like, okay, the werewolf, when he becomes the human, transforms into the hybrid form, is when they want to feed. Do they hunt people because that's their preferred? Hey, I like beef most, but I will eat sausage. I will eat pork. So
The man who's pure at heart and says his
so
prayers by night.
what am I in the mood for in my werewolf form? Oh, that person's close and I'm hungry, and even though I can smell the cows over there, maybe I'll. That is a personal choice that creature makes.
I don't know. Predators are opportunistic. So it's going to be whatever is going to put up the least.
But they have a
fight.
code. But the predators have a code. I mean, like the aliens predator. Those predators. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I mean like
I know.
animal predators.
I know what you meant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, hey, I feed my cats outside in the barn. We got barn cats, and they will put the point where I put a can of this and a different can of this. They will sniff them before they eat. They have preferences. So I'm like, why can't the werewolf in his hybrid form have preferences? Why does he have to attack humans, or she have to attack
Well, I
humans?
mean, because if you're going by the Gothic werewolf, it's a curse. So, and the curse is that he is doing something that is like, and especially if you look at storytelling and the history of storytelling, like look at something that's a punishment. It's taboo, and what is more taboo than cannibalism? Not much. So, eating that is the whole point, is that like the idea of this person being, and like the myth of the Wendigo as well,
Right.
of this
That's where they draw
person
their strength.
eating another person is like super taboo. So this is exactly why this curse is effective, because it's something that nobody wants to do. Their immortal soul is in trouble. They're going to go to hell, and like that is something that medieval peasants would have been really worried about. So like,
Oh, you're going to hell.
yeah.
Oh shit!
Oh,
Yeah, your
boy.
life's you're screwed.
and so then we got to find some way to pay the church to rid myself of sin or whatever. So
Right. But yeah, as a DM, I play these without alignments. But when I use a pack, like, okay, this is supposed to be an encounter. You guys can try to talk your way out or influence, but it's this is meant to be a combat
also,
encounter.
evil and good doesn't necessarily mean you're not enemies. So I mean, like, that's why I think alignment is just really restricting. I guess I've always kind of felt that way because it's so much deeper than that, right? If you are going into a crypt and we're gonna like Tomb Raider it, right? We're gonna go in and we're gonna get this thing, or Indiana Jones, right? We're gonna go in, we're gonna get this thing, we're gonna avoid all these traps, but like first of all, that thing doesn't belong to you. So you are stealing something. Your good characters are stealing something. You're maybe the Indiana Jones and
But it belongs to the museum.
right. Well, it belongs to the museum. No, but like when he takes the stone and then like
The Shankara stone.
yeah, and then like it curses the land, right? So oh my gosh, okay, well, so your good characters are doing these like maybe not so great things, and who's to say the other adventuring party that maybe the GM throws in there to have some opposition is also like they're good aligned, but that doesn't mean anything really because you're still enemies, you're still going after the same thing, you still both, I mean, want to eat each other's cereal at the end of the day, and yeah.
I totally understand that, and I like it when we think about it like that. But I think Gary was actually thinking, it's like, okay, we're having this discussion about what would be their motive. Well, you can't say, well, you're going to be a party or an adventurer, and you're going to go steal and kill these creatures just to kill them and take their money. That sounds bad. Well, we're going to give them alignment so they're evil, you're good. That way, you as a player, when you role play this, you don't feel so bad, and I kind of think that's what he was doing. And after all these
really
years,
I can't pretend to know what that was like.
Well, that's what I would be thinking. That
I know that like from the beginning, like even in the old modules that Gary Gygax wrote, like they're like even the neutral or good aligned peasants had how much gold they had and where it was kept. So you have modules that are listing. So he did not expect, I think, that you are good guys stealing for bad guys. He just knew that people were going to go and
everybody's
pillage, and everybody's a target. It's the same reason as like why in Skyrim you can steal from anybody if you can get away with it.
Right. But I sometimes...
I'm not sure he had a benevolent idea behind that. But.
As a DM, I have a problem of forcing my players to do something. I give them a lot of free, or what do you want to do? You don't have to attack them. I don't want them to have to attack unless it has a serious plot, or it's a serious part of the story. And you'll find that out tonight with my story when we play, that there are some, I throw dilemmas at people to, and I've read stuff lately out about 5e, that some of the stuff that I talk about is like, ooh, that's a trigger warning. And I'm like, exactly. That's the motivation for you not to stay in the inn and eat blackberry pie all night, or blackberry cobbler, and if there's some, there might be a trigger warning to some people, but it's not a bad thing. I hear people have trigger warnings about arachnophobia. I'm like, it's a game.
Yeah, but if they're
I'm afraid of spiders.
I actually know a kid that he was so afraid of spiders that when he actually reskinned it was actually Dark Souls that had, or no, it was Skyrim that had the giant spiders. He had to reskin those or turn around. He would turn around and not face the screen and just smash buttons until they were dead because he couldn't stand to look at them on the screen.
I've never been that phobic about anything. I don't like spiders.
Neither,
I don't like snakes, but I will look at them. Do I want to touch them? Not really. Because I'm not an expert at them. I'm just like, hey, I can tell you what a black widow looks like. I can tell you what a wolf spider looks like. I can tell you what a granddaddy longlegs looks like, but I don't need to be touching them. We don't need to be friends. You can hang out over there. My wife wants me to kill them,
Outside,
I'll be like,
guy.
They're over there. They're not bugging me. How do I know he doesn't want to be my friend,
We don't want to do that to a black widow.
Yeah, no, I just stay the hell away from them. But I just wanted to talk about tonight some things that you had mentioned about influences in our games. Board games, like you said, they're a good place to draw inspiration from.
I have no idea how long we've been talking, but I feel like
Well,
it's
no.
probably too long to get into board games, so we might have to do a 2.0 on board games.
I mean, that's fine with me.
That's fine.
I mean, I don't know if I want to talk about anything. Oh, I wanted to show everybody the Undercroft, how it's coming along, but it's not quite
Oh,
done.
so good.
It might be done by next time, yeah.
I just got a little bit of painting to do on it, and I want to show the stuff that I got from Chris Korzak, but it was just 2 modules this week, Dragons of Flame and some other thing, but that's not a big deal.
Yeah, we can probably tie that into the next show.
You know, but I would definitely like to talk about board games. I mean, I only have a couple, Curse of Strahd and Wrath of Ashardaron, but
Then you got some, it's not D&D, like
oh,
Cry
yeah,
Havoc.
Cry
Yeah,
Havoc.
you got some other
I
stuff
won
there.
that from Secret Door, and they're
One of the
Raffle.
drawings.
Yeah.
One of the raffles.
yeah, they had
Awesome.
and there was another game. I don't know what I did with it. It's probably at the house, but I just wanted to talk about those things. So we're gonna do Hall of Heroes Comic Con. We take a lot of 3D printed stuff, lots.
That's Memorial Day weekend, right?
Yeah, Friday and Saturday.
Memorial Day, Friday and Saturday, yep.
You be able to show up for a while?
Yeah.
All right. Get your pass then.
And I am on the committee, so anybody who comes there will see me no matter what time they're there. Because I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there
Run around
Friday,
like
Saturday,
a chicken with my
Sunday.
head cut off.
We'll be there for that.
If you want to volunteer, go to the website that I do not have memorized.
I'm sure Alan at Hall of Heroes could point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Or just Google it.
Give a shout out to Griffin Games. They're going to be a pop-up Gen Con.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know what kind of things that they will have.
They should have special games from, and Secret Door should be doing this too. They should have special games from Gen Con that are Gen Con exclusives.
Okay.
So they should have special demos and special games that you can purchase.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not sure if anybody else is doing it, but I do know Griffin has announced it. So,
Right.
but
Secret Door told me the other day when I was in there.
yeah,
I think I've seen
they
that
should
online.
be.
Secret
They
Door's
should be
doing
as
too.
well.
Yeah.
I don't know if Fantasy was doing anything, because normally they go to Gen Con, but they're not going this year.
Right.
So I don't know if they were
Well,
going to do.
a lot of places aren't going this year, so I don't know. I think if you want to go to Gen Con, it's probably going to be kind of dead this year. So hey, it
we're
might
going
be
on Sunday.
might be a great might be a great year to go if you are like kind of like, oh, I don't really want to deal with the huge crowds.
I
Like,
know. That's why we're going Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, it's like $15 to get in too.
Well, and also on Sunday, pro tip, on Sunday, they don't want to take all their crap home, so they mark it down.
That's right. I'm hoping that there's
On
some stuff
Sunday-
left.
On Sunday, you get some deals.
But shout out to the Griffin, the Fantasy Games, Secret Door, Ruples over there in Elkhart. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't been in there in a while.
I went in there once, so.
Yeah.
that's it.
He's always had the boxes of the prepackaged boxes of minis,
Mm-hmm.
the pre-painted with the 4 in it, and he always had extras. So I was like, oh. And then I was a Tomb of Annihilation is when I started collecting them, and I would like go in and buy a box or 2 every week to try to get a Sirac. And finally I got it. And I was like, yes. I tell people, like, you can play with any mini here. You don't touch that one. I'll 3D print an Sirac before I let people play with it.
Don't mess with Tim's liches.
And Origins is coming up in what, October? First week in October, I think.
I have no working clue.
I
don't think I'm going anywhere. I don't know.
I was thinking about going to Origins, but I don't know. It all depends on the situation with my dad.
Yeah.
You know, I know you wanted to do the Judas Priest Sabaton concert. And
Yeah, probably not gonna work out because we got so much going on.
I want to see Sabaton. They're so awesome.
Sabotage?
No, Sabaton.
Oh, I don't know.
They are I'm gonna say
I love Judas Priest.
they're from Europe, but they sing their songs in English, then they do some in Polish.
I'll have to look this up.
But they do a lot of stuff based on war, like
The Defense of Moscow. I've seen that online. It's
You know,
pretty
then they
good.
did a song about Bismarck. They did a song about um, the Winged Hussars, you know, from back in history. They do all these like songs about these important events in military history, and it's really heavy. I mean, and it's good. It's like Iron Maiden was doing some heavy stuff there for a while, based on military thing, but Sabaton is just like one step farther.
I
And
have to look it up.
so
Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but you know, I kind of want to see Sabaton. I really don't care about Judas
Yeah.
Priest anymore, but
Well, Judas Priest is one of them guys. One of them on my bucket list that I haven't seen. It's, you know,
Yeah.
some old ones that.
you know, I know they'd be
I've
last, but
never seen them. I've never seen Ozzy, but pretty much everybody else that I want
I've
to see.
seen
I've
Ozzy
seen.
like a ton.
well, I watched Osbournes, man. I mean,
I've never watched
I would like
any
to
of
seen.
that.
I'd seen Ozzy back more in his prime.
and then when Ozzy and Jack road trip or whatever, they
And
go.
Alice Cooper. I've seen Alice Cooper.
I've never seen him. All that kind of stuff you should know. I made when we played D&D First Edition back in the day. I made a god called God of Thunder, based on Kiss's song "God of Thunder" that Gene Simmons would sing.
This is the second time you've mentioned Kiss today.
I'm sorry.
I don't think we can be friends now.
Well, hey, I watched History the other day after the Osbournes, man.
Yeah,
but
I watched it too.
this was like a
Okay.
he carried like this. It wasn't a guitar, but it was like what is it, the lute? What is it that the bards play? The lyre? You know, it's a stringed instrument, but he could amplify it, and it would send out a shock wave. You know,
There's
and
DCC. There's DCC modules based on like Neon Knights and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and so there's some Black Sabbath inspired DCC modules out there for Dungeon Crawl Classics.
I
Just
only have
FYI,
one.
if anybody wants to know.
I only have one DCC, and it was one from RPG Day a couple years ago. I haven't got into it. I don't know. Was it Jones always posting
Yeah.
on there? And
Joan loves DCC. So.
and she was talking about
That's her game.
having characters and multiple characters. I'm like, why? And someone asked a question, why so many characters? And said because a lot of them die. And I'm like,
Well, that's the fun, although.
I didn't know if that was that going to be really fun to have your characters die.
That's just like the first. So that's how they weed out the characters that go on to level, because you start out as like a 0 level human. You start out as a 0 level whatever, and
Okay.
you dwarf or whatever, and you are like a farmer or like you are a product of circumstance, and something
Okay.
bad has gone down, and for some reason you and your pig and your pitchfork have got to go out and save the world. So, or die trying, and usually
Okay.
you die trying. So
Yeah, I've no experience with it. I just have the one module from DCC
Yeah, I don't know
giveaway.
if you
well, the DCC book is fairly inexpensive. You can get the
I
soft
think you
cover.
can download it for free from
You
their
can
website.
you can get the like quick start rules for free.
Okay.
But the like even if you want like the soft cover, it's like $30, and it has everything you need to play, and it has like 2 modules in the back.
So
So like it's
is their dice system the same as D&D?
it kind of. So yes and no. It's very OSR, and it's very much inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. But there is like there's funky dice, so there's like because there's tiers of like dice.
The Zoki dice, is that what it's called?
What is it?
Zoki, Zocchi, I think.
I don't know.
I don't
about
remember.
that. But I know that like you have, depending on what you're playing, you might get to use like a better than a 20-sider or whatever.
Okay.
So like they have a 24-sider or something, and
Okay.
I mean you still use all of
Or
those
Milky
dice,
or-
and you can use those dice. You can use all your polyhedral 7 sets, but you can also they have funky dice that. There are some like spells and stuff where you're rolling a D5 or a D7
Okay.
in there. They're really bizarre looking. It's great.
Yeah, I don't own. I got a lot of dice, but I don't have anything like that.
I'll pick up a set
Well, I probably will eventually because
just to have the funky weird dice.
I like to have cool things. Like I have Bobby the Barbarian lanyard now.
Cute.
Picked this up in a collection, and
Very
I'm like,
adorable.
I'm like, yeah.
Now you need a union.
She just the woman I got it from just called it Barbarian. I'm like, that's Bobby the Barbarian.
It's Bobby.
You don't know that?
Yeah, I got the,
Obviously did not watch Saturday morning cartoons.
yeah, I got.
She did.
I bought the first season on DVD or Blu-ray, whatever.
I have all the minis
Blu-ray.
of them as undead.
Nice. Oh.
You know,
You're going to have to hook me up.
I could do that. I have quite a few of them. I've been making sets for the show. So my minis are at the show will only be $1 a piece for people at the show. That's dirt cheap for a resin printed. And then I have
Take
a
all
lot
my
of.
money.
Then I have I have some that that will be free because like the base might have a crack in it or something, just little misprints that are still good for
Come
people.
in a 25-cent box. You should make a little.
Oh, I'm sure I will. But I'll have hundreds of minis at the show, some really new used books, some older stuff, some reprint stuff from Dungeon Masters Guild, or DM's Guild, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of terrain, dice towers, little dice tubes that have a screw on top.
Fun.
All kinds of stuff for people to come in and check it out. Anything to up your game, But
Plus, you can join in the cosplay contest and you can totally dress up as your D&D character.
now,
So
for the cosplay, for the Comic-Con, the professionals like Night Mage, and they don't compete, correct?
they don't compete. No,
Okay.
they are there to judge the cosplay contest.
Okay, so any of you cosplayers local will not be competing against the big guys or the professionals. They will judge you, and so they do have local people do have a chance to win then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I never followed that. I mean, because
Yeah.
I've always been so busy at these shows. When I go, I'm usually as a vendor. It's like,
Cosplay isn't something that I'm personally into, but I really love seeing the costumes. So I love seeing other people do it.
Well-
But I'm like, I don't like to be encumbered, and I also don't like to be hot. So I'm just gonna wear a t-shirt and jeans.
well, I see that. I see people that, I'll see Night Mage and I'll see that the woman that's usually there, and they'll change their costumes so
Super
many
Casey.
times. Super Casey, yeah, they change their costumes.
And Mia as well, Mia Lynn from the Green Fairy. Yeah,
Right.
she's also.
And I'm like, I see them in different costumes. Like one minute I'll be standing there, oh, that's what's her name, and like different costume, and it's like, but then you see some people that walk by that are not them, but they got really good costumes, and I'm like the dude that had the falcon wings, and each year it kept getting
Yeah.
bigger,
Julia James, who came as the singer. She's local or whatever, but she came as Gamora one year, and I mean, my God, it was like spot on. And then her and her daughter, in 2019, her and her daughter were both Wonder Woman. And
Didn't her
it was
husband
just
go as
adorable.
Drax or her boyfriend?
Her husband, yes, did go as Drax, and she was Gamora, and they had one of the kids was Rocket, and the other one was
Okay,
Blue, I
'cause-
think.
Yeah, I
So.
think I remember seeing the Wonder Woman.
Really adorable. But the same woman last year or last con was Wonder Woman, and her
Okay.
daughter was also Wonder Woman. It was really
Yeah, because I remember seeing her as
very
Gamora,
convincing.
and him come by while they come walking by our tables.
Yeah, and
and he
his
was just
his
Drax.
Drax, he had he had even I don't know, it was like latex or whatever stuck to his skin. Yeah,
Gotta be hot.
Yeah. So.
But it was cold that weekend. I would say it was cold that weekend outside, so it wouldn't have been
No.
too bad.
She looked amazing. So.
Still hard to.
I remember
sweat.
the first year the con was, I went down there to drop off an order to a guy that was buying some stuff from me, and Robert Starks. And I was outside, and I called him on my phone, and my hands were froze. And I'm in this big winter jacket, freezing. It's like 5 degrees
Don't
outside.
let him scare you. Come to
But-
the con. It was going to be at the Hall of the RV Hall of Fame this year.
Yes.
You're not going to have to wait outside.
Right
in
off the toll road, yeah.
September.
I moved it down the road a little ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's,
I haven't
it's
been there.
right off the toll road. It's so,
It's actually the building next to the RV Hall of Fame this year.
Okay.
We're going to get the bigger building next year and going forward.
okay.
But they
Does that mean March then?
yes.
Because I know he wants to do one in March, and
Yep, we're going back to back, but it's gonna be it's a lot of space. It's gonna be it's gonna be good. And
And
and,
it's-
Adrian Paul is there, and we mentioned all these things and never Highlander. Come on.
This is the first year that I actually want to talk to a celebrity. John Ratzenberger.
John Ratzenberger. everybody, John Ratzenberger.
And I don't want to. I mean, he's not Norm. He was Cliff, and everybody's like, Norm. No, that's not Norm. That's Cliff. The mailman. Yeah, I just want to talk to him. He was in Empire Strikes Back. He was in A Bridge Too Far from the 70s.
And he's Ham.
Yeah.
Most importantly, he's Ham.
I remember him from A Bridge Too Far because he plays this character. Here we are talking about movies now, and but he plays this character.
This is like going to be an hour and a half long.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I didn't
It's
do
getting
this
pretty
one.
long, yeah.
I didn't do this one. It was.
But he plays this character. He's a soldier in a boat, and they're rowing across the. I don't remember which river it was, and the shell goes off in the water, and he plays this character. Then his eye is hanging out of his face, on his cheek, and I was like, oh wow! I was like, as a young kid, it was a war movie, but it had a little bit of gore, and I was like, oh man, that was as later on in life, I'm like, oh, that's a good place on Cheers,
I'm never not going to see him with his eyeball hanging out on his face.
It's just like, it's pretty cool. Then he plays Ham. I mean, I always knew he played Ham, but but in Empire Strikes
to me
Back,
to care about just the Disney stuff.
yeah. So,
We're still talking.
but it's all right, man. We're wrapping it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. Hopefully,
but hey,
someone stuck with us this long. And
we always talk about some really cool stuff. I would really love to do this in podcast so people could listen to us BS and not have to be stuck in front of their TV their computer to watch.
They could technically do it anyway. That's what I do with YouTube. I mean, I stick my headphones in.
Okay.
that's what I do.
So,
build computers. I might have Critical Role in the background. I build computers or something.
And I'm going to have a ton of Critical Role dice towers. So, hey, all right, guys. Talk to you later. Thank you for this episode. I'm Tim, Rob, Mandy,
See you next time.
and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Bye.